One introduction: Rosep view the United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only. For home building and furniture building, for just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lungs, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the Eco-Design Wood Stove and International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. Rosep view purple air PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary. Episode 57 DFL March 17, 2025. A technique to reduce gun deaths may be used to stop air pollution deaths. In episode 57 DFL 1, United States leading Democrats on Monday demanded an investigation of possible criminal corruption involving Musk. 2 United States, a Tesla rescue mission by conservatives has its work cut out. 3 United States, social security problems ahead. 4 United States, the Republicans pushing Trump to save the Biden clean energy tax credits despite the Trump rollback of climate policy. 5 United States, wind and solar firms have a pitch for Trump: you are going to need us. 6 United States, the budget trick the GOP might use to make a $4 trillion tax cut look free. 7 New Mexico, Los Alamos Doge cuts reach key nuclear scientists, bomb engineers, and safety experts. Firings and buyouts hit the top secret National Nuclear Security Administration. 8 Wisconsin, Madison. Rosep wood burning stick talk show a satire in Madison, Wisconsin. A farmer's market table is trying to apply a strategy used for people for fighting drug addiction or used for reducing gun violence applied to stopping indoor residential wood burning. 9 Illinois, Chicago, an organization in Chicago is trying to apply a strategy used people for fighting drug addiction to reduce gun violence. A meeting of Stick Talk, a Chicago collective, uses the philosophy of harm reduction to address gun violence. 10 Illinois, Chicago, United States, a review of a nonfiction book about The Onion, a paper where the news really is fake, and that is the point. And funny because it is true, this book is an idiosyncratic history of The Onion, the publication that made the media its chief satirical target. 1 United States leading Democrats on Monday demanded an investigation of possible criminal corruption involving Musk, the tech billionaire and the richest man in the world, tasked by Trump with slashing the federal government. Excerpts edited by Rosep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, The Guardian, March 17, 2025. The investigation should involve the Federal Aviation Administration decision to cancel a $24 billion contract with Verizon to upgrade air traffic control communications and to pay the Musk Starlink to help manage U.S. airspace. Senators Chris Van Hollen, Richard Blumenthal, and Elizabeth Warren wrote to Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, and Mitch Bem, Acting Inspector General of the Transportation Department. We asked that the Department of Transportation Office of Inspector General and the Department of Justice investigate the scope of the Musk activities at the FAA, the senators said. An investigation, the letter said, would determine whether Musk, in his capacity as a special government employee in the White House, has participated in any particular matter in which he has a financial interest which would violate the criminal conflict of interest statute. This communication was sent amid widespread concern over the state of the U.S. air traffic control system under Trump after a string of crashes and accidents. The Democrats requested that Musk promptly release his financial disclosure form so that the public can understand his potential conflicts of interest, setting a deadline of March 31, 2025. 2 United States, a Tesla rescue mission by conservatives has its work cut out. Trump rallied support for the Musk car company, but there may not be enough conservatives willing to buy electric cars to make up for the Democrats who now shun Tesla's. Excerpts edited by Rosep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, March 17, 2025. Last week, Trump pledged to buy a Tesla. The next day, the Sean Hannity said he had bought a Tesla to support the embattled company, saying a Tesla has more American parts in it than any other car made in our country. In a backlash to the backlash against the tactics of the Musk Department of Government Efficiency, prominent conservatives are rallying to the side of the electric car company led by Musk. They are hoping to swing enough like-minded consumers to offset a boycott of the electric automaker by liberals and Democrats or anyone offended by the Musk Actions analysts say it can help, but only to an extent. So many Democratic buyers appear to be fleeing Tesla that even a Trump sales pitch is unlikely to woo enough new customers to fill the vacuum. Tesla will deliver its fewest cars in the first quarter than it had in 3 years. When you make your product unattractive to half the market, you will not increase your sales. Since 2016, surveys have found that electric car owners were up to 4 times as likely to identify as Democrats or liberals as to identify as Republican or conservative. Among Tesla owners, the spread was consistently 2 to 1. The gap narrowed sharply through 2024 this year, as sales have fallen slightly. More Tesla buyers identify as Republicans than Democrats at 30% versus 29%. Democrats are fleeing the brand and saying they will not consider it in the future, so there is naturally a greater proportion of Republican and independent buyers. Democrats first started losing interest in Tesla when Musk bought Twitter, now X, in 2022. Then last July, when Musk publicly backed Trump, the share of Democrats who said they would definitely consider a Tesla fell by half. Overall, about 8% of car owners would now definitely consider a Tesla, according to Edwards surveys. That compares with 22% 5 years ago, when Tesla often topped rankings of luxury brands that buyers would consider. Tesla slipping sales are mostly attributed to the statements and behavior of Musk. Tesla remains the best-selling electric vehicle brand in America by far, with about 44% of the market, despite a 56% drop in U.S. sales to about 634,000 cars in 2024, according to a 44-year-old man traded a gasoline-powered SUV for a Tesla in 2019. A father of 4 and creative director of a Christian nonprofit music and arts organization said he leans conservative and is uncomfortable with boycotts. The Chevrolet Volta plug-in hybrid, introduced in 2011 after General Motors received federal government assistance, was derided by some conservatives as the Obama car. The fuel-sipping Toyota Prius and the gas-guzzling Hummer from GM were often lauded and attacked by people on opposite ends of the political spectrum. A political independent is determined to buy a Tesla because he wants to defy groupthink and polarization. A friend told him that she would stop speaking to him if he did. The independent added that he found criticisms of Musk overblown, so Elon was a hero of the left, and now he is a Nazi? That is just crazy. He said the Tesla sales and stock price are down about 48% from a December high. Some automotive experts say Tesla may struggle because the company has not regularly updated its cars or introduced new models. In addition, the chargers of Tesla, which once could be used only by Teslas, are opening access to nearly every major competitor, and other automakers are offering new electric models, often with notably affordable monthly payments. Musk is rapidly losing the advantages in range, tech, value, and convenience that drove people to Tesla. For a lot of people, it is time to move on and try something new. Tesla sales slipped even as overall U.S. electric vehicle sales grew 73% in 2024 to 13 million. New Tesla registrations have fallen 13% in the New York metropolitan area, the United States' largest car market. People can love their Hyundai, GM, Rivian, or BMW just as much. Republicans certainly buy electric cars, but fewer of them have made the plunge to fully electric models. Rural states where Republicans outnumber Democrats have fewer chargers than more urban states. Republicans are more likely to work outside the home and are less willing to put up with inconveniences like long charging stops. And a 2024 Pew Research Center survey found that more Republicans than Democrats say electric vehicles cost too much and are less reliable than gasoline cars. In the New York metropolitan area, the United States' largest car market, new Tesla registrations fell 13% to 47,000 cars in 2024. That same year, more than 101,000 people registered a Tesla in Los Angeles, the second largest market, a drop of 8%. Still, nearly 1 in 8 new cars in Los Angeles was a Tesla. In the San Francisco Bay Area, where Tesla was founded, nearly 1 in 5 new cars was a Tesla, but sales tumbled 17% to 54,000 cars. Consumers in the Houston area bought 12,000 Teslas, but Bay Area residents bought 45 times as many Teslas in a smaller market for new cars overall. Some areas saw big increases, including Miami, Fort Lauderdale, where sales jumped 32% to nearly 23,000 cars in 2024. Tesla sales also rose sharply in Salt Lake City, Las Vegas, and St. Louis. But Tesla gains in these places could not offset steeper declines in larger, more liberal metro areas. Experts say wealthy conservatives such as Hannity and Trump have the disposable income to make a personal automotive statement by opting for a Tesla, but they may not be able to persuade Americans of more modest means. Trump and other conservatives had spent years vilifying electric cars, mocking climate change, and criticizing the climate and auto policies of President Biden. The messaging is inconsistent. Is the guy in Arkansas who drives a Ram pickup going to buy a Tesla now? How far can you go against your own beliefs to support Musk? 3 United States Social Security problems ahead. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity. In relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates of 501c3 nonprofit organization, The New York Times, March 17, 2025, when Eleanor H. 66 called the Social Security Administration last month seeking details about her retirement benefits, she did not expect to comfort the representative who answered. The woman started sobbing. I asked her what was wrong, and she said she and her co-workers were informed by email to accept a taxable $20,000 payout or risk termination. The Social Security Administration, which sends retirement, survivor, and disability payments to 73 million people each month, has long been called the third rail of politics, largely untouchable given its widespread popularity and role as one of the remaining safety nets in the United States. But in recent weeks, the Trump administration, led by the Musk crew of cost cutters at the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, has taken its chainsaw to Social Security operations. The agency has announced plans to cut up to 12% of its workforce at a time its staffing is at a 50-year low. It has also offered early retirement and other incentives, including payments up to $25,000 to the entire staff. Many current and former Social Security officials fear the cuts could create gaping holes in the Social Security infrastructure, destabilizing the program, which keeps millions of people out of poverty and large percentages of retirees rely on for the bulk of their income. For United States, the Republicans pushing Trump to save the Biden clean energy tax credits. Despite the Trump rollback of climate policy, some Republicans and business leaders say clean energy can help his energy dominance agenda. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates of 501c3 nonprofit organization, The New York Times, March 17, 2025. A growing group of Republicans and business leaders is rallying behind an unlikely cause. They want to protect Biden-era tax credits for wind, solar, and other clean energy. Trump has made dismantling federal efforts to address climate change a signature part of his agenda, eliminating environmental regulations, withholding congressionally approved funding, firing workers, halting permitting for wind energy developments, and fast-tracking fossil fuel projects. But the clean energy tax credits, which were signed into law by President Biden in 2022 as part of the Inflation Reduction Act, have helped spur a boom in manufacturing investment in the United States, especially in Republican districts now as Trump pushes Congress to slash federal spending to pay for broad tax cuts for the rich. Some House Republicans from districts that got billions of dollars in investment from the tax credits have begun a campaign to keep them. Some are skeptical that if a spending package comes to a vote and the clean energy tax credits are not protected, House Republicans will vote against their own party. 5 United States wind and solar firms have a pitch for Trump. You are going to need us. Electricity demand is soaring and gas-burning power plants are in short supply. The renewable industry sees an opening even if Washington is souring on green energy. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, March 17, 2025. As Trump works to blunt the growth of wind and solar power and expand fossil fuel production in the United States, the renewable energy industry is making a new pitch. You need us. Wind and solar developers are increasingly pointing out that United States demand for electricity is soaring, driven by a boom in data centers, and it is proving difficult to build enough new gas plants to supply all the extra power that the nation needs. Wind, solar, and battery storage are relatively quick and cheap to construct that could help avert energy shortages and keep prices low. An argument that renewable energy firms are making to policymakers. They hope the attacks on wind and solar power would subside once the reality of United States' need for more electricity sunk in. They compared it to the early years of the Biden administration, when White House officials blocked new drilling leases only to soften after Russia invaded Ukraine and global oil prices spiked. We saw the last administration condemn American oil and gas until gas prices went up, and then they said, guys, can you please produce more oil and gas? Jason Grummett, chief executive of the American Clean Power Association, a renewable industry trade group, said, we do believe that once the emotion moves through the system and the economics start to come into focus, we will have a truly all of the above energy policy. 6 United States, the budget trick the GOP might use to make a $4 trillion tax cut look free, a maneuver so wonky that it might be best explained with sports cars and anime. Streaming. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, March 16, 2025. How much does a tax cut cost? It depends what you compare it to. Republicans in Congress trying to advance a giant bill that includes $4 trillion in tax cut extensions are considering a novel strategy that would make the extension appear to be free. The trick, budgeting with the assumption that current policies extend indefinitely into the future, even those with an expiration date, like the 2017 tax cut set to end next year. It is the difference between making the extension appear to cost $4 trillion or zero. Using this current policy baseline would not change the real effect on deficits or debt of the bill, but it would make it easier to actually make the tax cuts lasting by sidestepping a rule governing budget reconciliation. The process Republicans are using to pass the bill. Nearly all of the more than 20 experts we heard from dislike changing the baseline. Here are some of their examples. Example 1. If budget reconciliation is like taking the express lanes on a highway, there are extra rules and tolls, limited stops, but it gets you to where you want to go faster. Using a current policy baseline for taxes is like slapping a fake license plate on your car. Example 2. It is like taking an expensive week-long vacation and then assuming you can spend an extra $1,000 per day forever since you are no longer staying at the Plaza Hotel. Example 3. Last year, despite being deeply in debt, I bought a $100,000 sports car, so next year buying another $100,000 car is not irresponsible because I am merely spending the same amount of money as the year before, and if I purchase only a $70,000 car, then I should be congratulated for reducing my annual spending by $30,000. Example for your daughter is graduating from college. You have been paying for her education, so you are expecting to have a big improvement in your budget. However, after graduation, your daughter announces that there is no need for her to go find a job since covering her expenses is just a continuation of the current policy. Example 5. It is like getting an F on an assignment, but then the teacher applies a curve, so the grade written on your paper might say you passed, but you still did poorly on the assignment. Example 6. Current policy is like being born on third base and thinking you hit a triple conclusion. Pretending $4 trillion in tax cuts will cost nothing may not be easy. Many Republican lawmakers who are concerned about the deficit are well aware that the bill will increase the deficit by a lot, and the Senate parliamentarian who advises legislators on the rules of the chamber could rule that the current policy baseline is not allowed. Overruling or replacing the parliamentarian, while possible, is very rarely done. Doing so might make lawmakers less willing to follow Senate rules in the future, but that does not mean they will not try. Influential Republican lawmakers, including Speaker Mike Johnson and Senator Mike Crapo, chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, have publicly endorsed the current policy baseline. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has said the Trump administration also favors the approach. The choice is appealing not just for appearances, it also helps Republicans deal with an important procedural issue. Republicans are trying to enact their tax and spending bill through a special process known as budget reconciliation, a way to get around a possible Senate filibuster and pass the bill with only Republican votes. That process comes with lots of its own rules. A big one is that the legislation cannot increase the deficit after the first 10 years. Using a current policy baseline could help a permanent tax cut, one with no expiration date, passed that test with the current law baseline. Republicans would be stuck passing either another temporary tax cut or trying to find Democrats to vote for their bill, an unlikely prospect, and that is why they may be willing to overlook the judgments of most budget nerds and pretend they still live at the Plaza Hotel. 7 New Mexico Los Alamos Doge cuts reach key nuclear scientists, bomb engineers, and safety experts firings and buyouts hit the top secret National Nuclear Security Administration amid a major effort to upgrade the United States nuclear arsenal. Critics say it shows the consequences of heedlessly cutting the federal workforce. Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico, the National Nuclear Security Administration field office that oversees the lab, lost 9 staff members. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, the New York Times, March 17, 2025. They handled the secure transport of nuclear materials, dangerous, demanding work that requires rigorous training. 4 of them took the Trump offer of a buyout and left the National Nuclear Security Administration. A half-dozen staff members left a unit in the agency that builds reactors for nuclear submarines, and a biochemist and engineer who had recently joined the agency as head of the team that enforces safety and environmental standards at a Texas plant that assembles nuclear warheads was fired in the past 6 weeks. The agency, just one relatively small outpost in a federal workforce that Trump and his top advisor Musk aim to drastically pare down, has lost a huge cadre of scientists, engineers, safety experts, project officers, accountants, and lawyers, all in the midst of its most ambitious endeavors in a generation. The nuclear agency, chronically understaffed but critically important, is the busiest it has been since the Cold War. It not only manages the United States' 3748 nuclear bombs and warheads, it is modernizing that arsenal, a $20 billion a year effort that will arm a new fleet of nuclear submarines, bomber jets, and land-based missiles. Since the last year of the first Trump administration, the agency has been desperately trying to build up its staff to handle the added workload, though it was still hundreds of employees short of what it had said it needed. It had edged up to about 2,000 workers by January. Now, with the Trump buyouts and firings, the trajectory of the agency has gone from one of painstaking growth to retraction. More than 130 employees took the government offer of a payout to resign. How do you get people with extremely advanced security skills to be able to defend a nuclear weapon on the road, and also are willing to be long-haul truckers? 8 Wisconsin Madison Rozep, wood-burning stick talk show. A satire in Madison, Wisconsin, a farmer's market table is trying to apply a strategy used for people for fighting drug addiction or used for reducing gun violence applied to stopping indoor residential wood-burning. A meeting of wood-burning stick talk, a Madison collective that uses the philosophy of harm reduction to unnecessary air pollution caused by indoor residential wood burning, happens every week at the Madison Farmers Market. A day table set up just for the purpose of drop in meetings. The planning department of a farmers market table, March 17, 2025. Each year, there is a farmers market table on the Capitol Square in Madison, Wisconsin. Every Saturday morning from 8 to noon, the farmers market table seizes the attention of about 10,000 visitors to the farmers market and arrests the attention of up to 3% of those who are indoor residential wood burners. Yet indoor residential wood burning appliances remain plentiful and easy to acquire, and young people who live in dangerous neighborhoods say they feel unsafe without them. They feel they fit in when they light wood on fire, and they feel ostracized when they are not buying wood and burning wood like everyone else in their air-polluted neighborhoods. Wood-burning stick talk show in Madison, Wisconsin is an offshoot of Wood-burning stick talk, a Chicago collective has taken to teaching small groups of teenagers and young adults skills like first aid for wood burning wounds and how to avoid accidental discharges of PM 2.5 from unplanned spontaneous wood burning into the air. Wood-burning stick talk does not teach participants how to start a fire in a wood-burning stove. It does teach them how to carry, clean, and disinfect a wood-burning stove, to prepare it for dismantlement and repurposing as a trash can, and how to behave during a health department inspection. Life-saving techniques are taught, such as just do not burn wood. To begin with, the approach is similar to that of a safe injection site where people use illegal drugs under supervision. That model has gained support among left-leaning and moderate lawmakers as a way to prevent fatal overdoses of air-polluting PM 2.5, but has also faced criticisms from some who worry that it makes cancer worse. There are limits to the analogy, however. For one thing, academic experts point out, while drugs harm the user, indoor residential wood-burning stoves can eventually kill others, endangering everyone in a community. Wood-burning stick talk participants are not paid even a small sum to attend the sessions. Some come voluntarily, while others may be ordered by long-suffering members of their own family to go to a certain number of meetings. The focus is on accountability rather than punishment. They talk through hypothetical conflicts. We understand that they're going to carry guns, take drugs, and light wood-burning fires because these are their traditions, but we want to impress upon them to be thinking all the time. Just because you got a gun does not mean you can just shoot people. Just because you have a wood-burning stove doesn't mean you cannot use it for something else, like as an aquarium. The war on drugs has evolved into the war on guns, into the war on indoor residential wood-burning stoves. Not everyone who carries a weapon does so for self-protection. Not everyone who operates a wood-burning stove does it to heat a home, or not anyone has even a flimsy excuse for operating a wood-burning stove. Studies of harm reduction in other contexts have generally found that it makes things safer without increasing undesirable behavior. Over the last year or so, violent crime in Chicago has plummeted. Arrests and convictions do not stop young people from using guns, but approaches like stick talk might reduce violence. Polluting air with PM 2.5 from a wood-burning stove is not yet an arrestable offense. Stick is slang for gun, and stick talk developed out of the turmoil of 2016, when violence in Chicago surged to its highest level in 20 years with more than 700 homicides and 3,500 shootings. Wood-burning stick is not slang for anything. It is just a description of what is burned in an indoor residential wood-burning appliance. A group of community organizers concerned about the violence held a series of listening sessions. Many of its attendees are both authors and survivors of gun-related harms. A group of community organizers concerned about the PM 2.5 air pollution held a series of listening sessions at a table at the farmers market. Stick talk asks for a challenging empathy shift using the tagline, "Do we dare love the shooters?" Wood-burning stick talk does not go that far. Wood-burning stick talk just says do not burn wood. To begin with, it is a simple message that anti-gun pitch, along with empathy, became harder to make in 2020 when gun violence began to surge across the country and became the leading cause of death for children in the United States. Police forces responded to the rising gun violence by stepping up seizures and arrests. Participants said they were initially drawn by the $25 they received for showing up, but had come to appreciate the frank conversations on topics that were taboo at school. I do not have patience, but when I am in the circle it builds momentum for me to allow patience to happen. My anger that led me to own a gun, it was bad, but I actually worked on it. I think about what I do instead of causing action and destruction. In anti-indoor residential, wood burning pitch, tinged with empathy, became harder to make when the farmers' table pitchers realized that indoor residential wood burning was not being quickly replaced with the logical alternative of heat pumps that work down to 40 degrees below zero and double as air conditioners. Luckily, the Biden administration launched a program of heat pump rebates administered by individual United States in the fall of 2025. The heat pump rebates are for up to $8,000 based on a sliding income scale. So many heat pumps can be acquired for little to no money. One wood burning stick talk participant said, "I do not have patience, but when I am sitting at the farmer's market table rapping in the circle, it builds momentum for me to allow patience to happen. My anger and conformity that led me to own an indoor residential wood burning stove, it was bad, but I actually worked on it. I think about what I do instead of causing action and destruction and starting a wood burning fire and causing air pollution that threatens the health and lives for my family and friends to my near neighbors and beyond, and also hastening climate change." 9 Illinois Chicago, an organization in Chicago, is trying to apply a strategy used people for fighting drug addiction to reduce gun violence. A meeting of Stick Talk, a Chicago collective, uses the philosophy of harm reduction to address gun violence. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, March 17, 2025. Each year, the Chicago Police Department seizes about 10,000 illegal guns and arrests thousands of people for illegal gun possession, yet guns remain plentiful and easy to acquire, and young people who live in dangerous neighborhoods say they feel unsafe without them. Stick Talk, a Chicago collective, has taken to teaching small groups of teenagers and young adults skills like first aid for gunshot wounds and how to avoid accidental discharges. Stick Talk does not teach participants how to fire weapons, it does teach them how to carry, clean, and store a gun, and how to behave during a police stop. Life-saving techniques are taught. The approach is similar to that of a safe injection site, where people use illegal drugs under supervision. That model has gained support among left-leaning and moderate lawmakers as a way to prevent fatal overdoses, but has also faced criticisms from some who worry that it makes drug problems worse. There are limits to the analogy, however. For one thing, academic experts point out, while drugs harm the user, guns can kill others, endangering everyone in a community. 10 Illinois Chicago, United States, a review of a non-fiction book about the Onion, a paper where the news really is fake, and that is the point, and funny because it is true. This book is an idiosyncratic history of the Onion, the publication that made the media its chief satirical target. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, March 16, 2025. The Onion, the satirical news organization founded in 1988, has faded a little from our national consciousness. Funny because it is true, was written by a former Onion copy editor who also wrote The Freaks, came out to write about a publication called The Village Voice. This book includes front page reprints and financial breakdowns in both senses of the word. The author ventures beyond alumni of the Onion alums and goes on to excoriate corporate capitalism and the erosion of local investigative reporting, and the book also has asides about environmental advocacy, though her book sometimes gets bogged down in memories of petty interoffice conflict and gossip of the kind the book reviewer never engage in. It is meticulously researched with an appealing what the heck wildness. The Onion started as a simple cut and paste newspaper, the extracurricular whim of 2 undergraduates at the University of Wisconsin at Madison, a city that is constantly doing okay. As a former student and one-time editor, Ben Carlin puts it, replete with farmers markets and touring indie bands. It was named after the Onion sandwiches the founders enjoyed with no deeper meaning. The Onion was a retort of sorts to the dueling campus newspapers on opposite sides of the political spectrum and to the bland USA Today. The ethos of the Onion was celebrity adjacent, if anything. The signature Onion article, "If you have been hiding under a TikTok," is unbylined and written in the style of the AP, the news wire service, the one recently banned from the Oval Office for refusing to substitute the Trump-preferred term Gulf of America for Gulf of Mexico. Some writers like Carlin went on to soar in showbiz the rebellious spirit of the Onion and disdain for selling out, plus some simple bad luck got in the way of the brand hitting it big. The editorial staff moved to New York, epicenter of the media, right before 9/11. As commentators pronounced ponderously on the death of irony, a trenchant Onion issue themed to the calamity U.S. vows to defeat whoever we are at war with doubled the Onion audience. Then came social media, and now artificial intelligence. Fake news went from being a form of entertainment to a political talking point. The Onion, which moved operations to Chicago, rolls on. Last August, it defiantly reintroduced a print edition, marking the occasion with an article headlined, "New York Times to cease publication." In December, despite support from parents of the Sandy Hook shooting victims, a judge blocked its attempted takeover of InfoWars, the conspiracy website of Alex Jones. The account on X of The Onion has 11 million followers, a subreddit devoted to real stories so unbelievable readers need to be reassured that this is not The Onion. Over 22 million followers.
One introduction. Rozep view the United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only. For home building and furniture building, for just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen, and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM2.5, and PM2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lung, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom. The Eco-Design Wood Stove and International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. Rosette View Purple Air PM2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.